Alright, so today I want to give you an update on some of the ball pythons that I hatched out this year. They're getting pretty big. They've eaten about 24 meals, and some of them are going through quite the color transition. It's kind of interesting. I got a lot of super pastel, calico stuff. I have a visual desert ghost, and I just kind of wanted to show them off so you can kind of see the color transition as they age a little bit. And they've had about 24 meals, and let me tell you, they are getting pretty feisty. I actually went in there the other day, and they were like hissing at me and snapping. I thought I'd, bring them out a little bit in the spotlight and kind of tame them down a little bit, give them a little bit of handling time. It always helps to handle your hatchlings, especially I'd say in the first few months. That's when they can be really influenced as far as kind of taming them down, versus if you always just throw rats in there and you never really handle them, sometimes they can get a little feisty in their old age. But I'd say usually, ball pythons, usually once they hit about 800, 900 grams, most of the times they'll really mellow out. It's just when they're juveniles they can get a little feisty. So I'm just going to jump over to my hatchling rack and start pulling these out and show you some of these awesome hatchlings. Alright, so I want to start with my best and my brightest. Take a look at this crazy snake. This one we named Fang. This is a super pastel desert ghost, a visual desert ghost. And look at how bright this is. I don't know if I've ever seen a snake so bright. That is crazy. And usually these desert ghosts with the pastel on them, they stay super bright as they age and mature. They fade out. Sometimes they fade a little bit, but I'd say that they're probably the one gene that really keeps the pastel really super bright. And this guy, I found out earlier this week that he kind of got stuck in a shed, like from here all the way up to here. I've been kind of working on his stuck shed a little bit and kind of soaking him in the water a little bit the last couple days, and it still seems like it's hung on just a little bit up here. I might have to take a little more aggressive action and maybe kind of peel it off a little bit. I might have to soak it, and then usually what I like to do is I like to soak them a little bit, put them in a little bit of water, and then once it loosens up, I take like a washcloth that's a wet washcloth and just kind of rub it right on the snake. That's what I do with my reticulated pythons, and that seems like it works pretty good. Some people actually put their snake in like a snake bag, or some people do it like in a pillowcase or something like that to get the stuck shed off. And sometimes, this is the first time I've actually had a hatchling with a stuck shed this small, but look at how big she's getting. This is a female, and hopefully, I'm actually really big into the Desert Ghost project. Hopefully here in a couple years I'll be able to breed this one. Such an amazing snake. I can't even believe how bright and awesome this snake is. And look at the crazy head on this one. This is really kind of the most crazy snake that I've ever seen. That's pretty amazing that I hatched it out. It's kind of weird because when I actually produced this, I didn't even realize that the female was het for Desert Ghost. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere. I bred a visual ghost to some random female and popped out this crazy looking snake. That is pretty crazy. And if you actually take a look at her belly, we can actually take a look. Usually the Desert Ghosts have pretty clear bellies, but that thing is just crazy. I could just watch this snake all day. That is quite an amazing ball python. Alright, so take a look at this one. This is Spock. This is my super pastel female, 100% het Desert Ghost. You can definitely tell the difference between a visual Desert Ghost and just one copy of the gene. She's all balled up. Take a look at this. That's why they call them ball pythons, because they ball up into a ball when they get scared. And this one's kind of interesting because it has a lot of white in the background between the pattern. And usually that indicates, from my experience, that's like a high intensity line of pastel that really brings out a lot of the white in the background. Is kind of interesting. And you can definitely tell on this one she's getting some good size to her. And take a look at her head. She's got a pretty interesting looking head, kind of faded out a little bit right there. Let's see if you can take a look at her eyes. And usually the pastels have really bright green eyes. I don't know if you can see it on this girl. It doesn't really look like she's really super bright green. Looking really good. She's really eating pretty well. She's had about 24 meals. Looking fantastic. Take a look at that cute face. So here is Freckles, my super pastel calico 100% het Desert Ghost. Really looking forward to breeding these girls. I want to hold all these back. These are like all my holdbacks. I really want to get more into the Desert Ghost project. It'll be kind of interesting to see, looking on this one, how kind of almost looks like sandblasted from the combination of the super pastel and the calico in the mix. You can definitely see on the head's really faded out from the super pastel. Really interesting looking snake. pretty awesome. She's getting some pretty good size to her, and all of these haven't refused any meals yet. They're like just pounding I'm actually feeding them a combination of frozen thawed and live mice. Trying to get away from the live mice, going over to frozen thawed, and it seems like maybe 3/4 of them are doing pretty good on the frozen thawed. Some of them just kind of get freaked out and they will not, absolutely not take a frozen thawed mouse yet. And kind of the trick is to actually get them finally over to rats. And I'd say, you know, for you know, these ball pythons pretty much this big, I think I could probably start transitioning a lot of these over to like a frozen thawed rat, and that is pretty much what you want to do. Look at that line right down the top of the neck. That is pretty awesome. Right down the top. And it's kind of interesting how the super pastel really turns it into almost like tiger stripes in a lot of cases, which is really awesome. This is a really beautiful snake. As a matter of fact, I haven't produced a whole lot of calico in my collection until this year, and then I started producing these. These are absolutely stunning. All right, so here is Dusty. Dusty is a super pastel calico Enchi 100% head desert ghost. A lot of genes in the mix in this one. I pulled her out of the tub and she started hissing at me and then balled up into a little ball. She's so funny. But it's kind of interesting. You don't handle them for one, especially at first, and they don't really know you very well, and sometimes they can actually. As a matter of fact, on this one, it almost looks like she has blue eyes, which is kind of interesting, like a kind of a steel blue gray, kind of an interesting. It's weird because usually pastels and super pastels have really green eyes. So this one is kind of interesting that it has kind of the bluish, almost like a steel gray eye. And then you can definitely tell on this one it has a really strong Enchi influence, reducing the patterns all the way into almost these tiger stripes, which is pretty awesome. This will be a really powerful breeder, breeding it to just about anything. Because you breed this to something else, all the offspring will be pastel, half will be Enchi, half will be calico. And then if you breed it to a visual desert ghost, I actually have a male visual desert ghost, then half the offspring will be visual desert ghosts. Pretty awesome. All right, so take a look at this one. This is actually from a different clutch. This is Joker, and Joker is a pastel calico, and this is one of the ones I actually had to assist feed this one. This is kind of the ones that have been lagging behind. I only had one meal, and I assist fed. It's kind of frustrating. Sometimes they won't eat, and they won't eat. I think I have 3 ball pythons hatchlings this year that I'm going to have to assist feed, which is kind of crazy. Maybe 3 or 4, which is it's a lot. Last year I thought I was going to have to assist feed, and then right at the end, all of them started eating. I kind of get to the point where if they start looking really skinny, then I'll assist feed. And essentially what you do is you have to actually, you know, kind of assist feed right in the mouth and kind of help them the first couple meals. And this one I actually offered a couple after the assist feed, and it still wouldn't take one on its own. So I might have to do another assist feed, which is kind of frustrating. But once you get them, you know, a few meals into them, and then you never have to assist feed them again. That's the one thing. If a ball python fasts, you never want to assist feed. It's only if they've never eaten before in their entire life and they just can't quite figure it out. And look at how beautiful the pattern is on this one with the pastel and the calico. Really stunning combination. So take a look at this beauty. She is really turning into a really beautiful snake. This is a pastel. As a matter of fact, I think this one might have a little bit of Enchi. It's kind of a reduced pattern right in here. I just had it marked as a pastel. Possible Enchi on this girl. Pretty awesome. This is 100% head desert ghost. So my male desert ghost was actually, we proved it out that there's actually Enchi in it. Looks like this one could, and this one looks like it's kind of one of the browned out versions of the pastel, with a lot of this really rich color. It makes for, this would be fantastic working it into some dark combinations where you can actually kind of, you know, work it, you know, sometimes if you have a really bright pastel, you want to work it into bright genes, and a darker pastel like this would be fantastic. I don't really have any dark genes in my collection just yet, but if you actually mix this with like a blackhead or something, I'm thinking about getting into the blackhead project. That's probably what I would get into if I got into a dark project. Either the black blackhead or the GHI. I might actually, at some point, I would love to pick up like a GHI Mojave or something like that to kind of work those jeans into my collection. I don't have either one of those, but it's kind of interesting on this one. She has little lines right under her eyes, like little teardrops. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of an interesting effect right under her eyes. You don't see that on a lot of ball pythons. The little tiny, it's kind of like little, like she's crying or something. Poor little girl, she's got these weird little teardrops right under the eye. Kind of an interesting effect on that. So here is pretty much the crown jewel of what I hatched out this year. Other than that, I think that Super Pastel Desert Ghost, that's probably the crown jewel. This is probably a second runner-up. Take a look at that crazy snake. That is one of the craziest things I ever produced in my whole career kind of breeding ball pythons. I was wondering if this is the world's first. So I actually went over to Morphmarket and someone produced another one. This one happens to be, it's actually a pastel pinstripe calico bamboo. So essentially what it is, it's a lemon blast with the pastel and the pinstripe. And usually the lemon blasts are really visually dominant. I think that's where kind of all the shattering of the pattern is coming in. Then you have calico that really brings up the white on the sides and kind of look at the weird checkering on that. That is kind of the craziest thing I've ever seen. That is really some crazy pattern on that ball python. Kind of like nothing I've ever seen before. It's the first time I ever produced anything like this. It's kind of weird. And then it has the bamboo. Usually the bamboo is really visually dominant. You definitely see the influence of the bamboo. These guys are like, you know, really kind of stuck together. This one shed and it ate 2 meals on its own, so I didn't have to assist feed this one. I have another bamboo that, you know, some of these, I haven't really been feeding them, you know, that long. They haven't been out of the egg that long. But look at that crazy snake. That is really something. Really quite an amazing combination. And this one is, I'm definitely going to hold this one back and use it as a future breeder. Pretty awesome. All right, so here's the last one I want to show you. Take a look at how tiny this thing is. Super, super tiny ball python. Probably the smallest one that I've ever produced. We'll actually produce some albinos that were almost this small. And this guy is like really, it's kind of interesting. I actually tried to feed this one a live mouse hopper right from the start, and it actually ate the very first one. Look at that crazy head on that one. Essentially what this is it's a spider pied with, you know, the spider, essentially what it does, if you mix it into pied, it pushes all the color to the head, and then it has pastel in the mix, and I'm thinking it might have yellow belly too, which would kind of brighten up the head. So sometimes it's hard to tell if you have yellow. I'm thinking it might have yellow belly just because of how bright the head is. This is all the genes. And essentially what this was, is it was actually a whole clutch of slugs with one boob egg. And that one boob egg kind of developed, it looked like it almost developed into twins, where it looked like there was 2 snakes in there, and then one of them died, and then this one developed. It was kind of weird. And that's why this one's kind of really stunted and small. And I thought for sure I was going to have to assist feed this thing, and so far it's been doing fantastic. And this one, I'm thinking I'll probably, if I can get this one, you know, up to size and get it eating really reliably, I'll probably sell this one. I think I'm going to sell this one. Depends on what I'm kind of doing. I'm trying to limit the number of spiders in my collection because of the, you know, the potential head wobble of spiders. A lot of people, you know, kind of shy away from them. So I think there is a demand for spiders, but it's not really as high as some of the other genes, other combinations. And I pretty much just have one spider in my collection that I'm going to breed. That's my pastel spider desert ghost. And this one is like a close second. I don't know. This one is pretty awesome. I might actually hold this one back. May just have a couple of spiders. You know, I started out and I bought a whole bunch of spiders and pretty much filled all my racks with all these spiders before I really knew, you know, of the neurological issue, and kind of a lot of people aren't buying into the spider project. So there's not really the demand that you'd see with a lot of the other genes. So the demand is still there. As a matter of fact, I've had quite a few people say, hey, where's all your spiders at the reptile shows? And, you know, I produce a few just for the people that, you know, spiders can make some of the most amazing combinations. And if it wasn't for the head wobble, if we could actually figure out, you know, how to kind of reduce or eliminate the head wobble on spiders, I think it would be super popular. But take a look at that thing. That is so small. I can't even believe how small that guy is. That is, we named this one Lucky. I haven't even figured out if it's a male or a female. It's so small. I think it's too small to even probe at this point. And I fed it the first meal. It ate the first mouse hopper, and I've been trying to feed several times really super small mouse hoppers, like the size of, you know, almost like a mouse crawler, just the size of the belly, and it just has not eaten. I'm thinking I might have to assist feed this one if it doesn't eat again. But the first one today, it was pretty good, and it still has, you know, pretty good body condition. Since it ate one meal, I have some hope for this one. So this one's pulling through, looking really good. Look at how tiny that is. Pretty amazing. All right, so there you have it. Those are some of my most amazing ball python hatchlings of the year. It seems like every year you produce new and interesting combinations, and I actually hold back a lot of holdbacks and I grow those up. So I always have new stuff coming up. As a matter of fact, either this year or next year, I'll probably produce some scaleless, completely scaleless ball pythons, which is kind of an interesting project. I'm just waiting on my females. And then I have my banana Enchi clown that didn't really produce anything. I'm really looking forward to producing some banana Enchi combinations, which is really awesome. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.